Fundamentalism means the absolute suspension of reason. For that reason, fundamentalism is wrong and dangerous. Fundamentalism, under almost any context, religious, political, ideological, is a kind of sterility of consciousness. It is much healthier and, in my opinion, godly to foster a fertility of consciousness, to not let our consciousness be stolen by our own conclusions, but to remain faithful and alive and not die spiritually. There's a temptation to fundamentalism and extremism. And the temptation comes with the yearning that people have, with security. People want to be safe. People love sameness. People, generally speaking, do not do well with change. It's safe to be changeless. But life, if life is anything, if it could be called anything, life is risk. When you give up freedom of consciousness, the ability to listen, the ability to change, the ability to take in new ideas, when that is surrendered to fundamentalism, it becomes frozen and sterile. And you become, metaphorically speaking, dead before you die. I'm not sure I could think of a better opposite to faith than fundamentalism. But the toxicity of fundamentalism is taken so much of what ought to be the momentum of faith. There's so much fundamentalism. I'm talking about in a religious or spiritual context, but it can be anything. Political, ideological. Every aspect of life you can choose to be fundamentalist about or not. I specifically sometimes talk about Christianity, even though fundamentalism is not exclusive to Christianity. It's an easy history to reflect on just because of the culture we live in. Before Christianity took over, it's without doubt to anyone who knows history, the pagan world, the pre-Christian world, the pagan world, if we can use that meaningless word, was still totally racked with immorality, with tragedy, with grossness and evil. Definitely, it's part of human nature. But one aspect of the pagan world, which was lost in the advent and then the ascension and domination of Christianity, was tolerance. And what I mean by fertility of consciousness was oppressed, violently oppressed. And while we don't burn witches anymore, and while the church and the Pope and whatever religious leader in the modern world, praise God, doesn't have the infallibility and the, impunity that the church used to enjoy in excess. While that doesn't exist anymore, that oppression still is alive and well in individual religious communities or institutions or organizations that are still very much alive and active and effective. So many youths grow up in a fundamentalist home. So many people have fundamentalist family. And the oppression which that breeds is very much alive. That sterility, the inability to go beyond the walls of a closed mindset. The age of information that we live in, where literally almost anything is available a click away or a tap of your phone, where you can see information about anything, has really worked to erode and to disrupt that bullshit. But it's still here. It's hard to let go of fundamentalism because it's like a rock in a stormy sea. It's a bit of incidentally Jesus is referred to as the rock, But actually, fundamentalism itself as a phenomenon is sand. It is eroded by the inevitable change of reality. Reality changes. Look outside. Green trees give way to naked trees, gives way to snow and ice. Every year. The sun makes its course over the sky, rises and sets. Things are born, they live out their lives, and they die. Change is inevitable. So change is an aspect of truth. Fundamentalism is a state of denial of that truth of change. It's a stubbornness. It's a rigidity that is unsustainable. That is why it's dangerous. Not just because of the sins of oppression and all that that brings, and how much misery that causes, but also because it's self-debilitating. You deprive yourself when you adopt a fundamentalist mindset. Like when you're driving down the highway really fast, and then you get off an exit and you go onto a regular road. You still have that tunnel vision of being in the highway, that zoned in tunnel vision, where the periphery matters less than what's directly in front. You have one focus. That's the mentality of fundamentalism. Periphery is blurred and only a single focus. The danger of that is that there's a whole world outside of your view. I should say that is the danger of it, but it's also the sadness of it. Because you deprive yourself of so much growth. To grow is to live. Anything alive grows. Anything alive moves. Everything moves. Everything grows and changes. This universe. Everything. Constantly. There is no stillness. Not here. So when you adopt the fundamentalism of acting still in a moving world, for all intents and purposes, spiritually, mentally, you're dead. And there is no difference. And you will die on your hill. And your hill will be washed away. I think it's an important thing to keep away from that fundamentalism. And to try to the best of your ability to readopt that old tolerance. Because it's from that old tolerance that the colors come out. Instead of the black and white fundamentalist view. There is no safe. There is no security. Ever and always, we are at the whim of the divine order, if you want to put it that way. We are at the whim of God. There is no safe. So live. And don't kill liberty in the name of security, because there is no security. And that's okay. Let your sense of security rest on one thing: that God's will be done. Everything comes out in the wash. Everything is reckoned. Everything is reconciled. That should be your one security. Beyond that, the field is open. There's no need to disable yourself by becoming a victim of your own unwillingness to move.